Hey guys, it's Black RB123 Ryan here, back with another video, and this is a pretty special video for me. As you can see, I got a new gun, but this isn't just any gun. This is a Auto Ordnance 1927 A1 Thompson semi-automatic Deluxe Carbine. So I'm gonna take you through, show you what there is to show, and I'm gonna show you how it ticks, and yeah, hopefully this video will be educational for you guys. Alright, so starting out from the beginning, I'm gonna show off the case it came with. This is it's a standard gun case by Auto Ordnance. Turn it over. See the Thompson signature and Chicago typewriter, probably the most famous nickname for the Tommy gun. I think that's pretty awesome. And if you're wondering why this shot is off of a tripod, this thing is so long that it'd be practically impossible to get the whole thing into frame. Alright, open it up. It's got these 4 latches, and there we go. This is a pretty nifty case. Got foam lining and cutouts for everything inside. Starting off over here, you got 2 holes. These are for stick magazines. This particular model came with a standard issue 20 round stick magazine and a standard issue 50 round drum magazine. I believe these holes can also hold a 30 round stick magazine. Up here, this is a safety lock with a set of keys. What you're supposed to do with these is to feed them through the ejection port on the gun, and it'll prevent the bolt from going all the way forward. And then this bag here, the owner's manual for the semi-auto models, and that tool right there, that's the third hand. We'll get to that later. And it also comes with the warranty information. Something else to mention is the car firearms group is mentioned here. For those of you who don't know, all this stuff is purchasable from autoordnance.com, and they're also associated with Car Arms and Magnum Research. For all of you who want to take a look, I'll leave a link to their website in the description. I'd recommend checking it out. They got some pretty cool stuff, and while I did purchase this gun locally, I'll put up a screenshot of what model I would have purchased if I did buy this online. Now, getting this out of the case is a little more tricky than I would have liked. What I found to be best is to actually grab onto the stock and the foregrip and just lift it up like that. Magazines are pretty simple, mostly because they actually have cutouts on them. There we go. I'm gonna set these aside because I'm gonna give you guys a look up close. Alright, so here we have the main subjects out of the case. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking a closer look at all of these. I'm going to show you the finer details, kind of what makes them tick, and how they function. One thing I won't be doing is shooting them, mostly because I don't really feel like going out to a gun range to do this, and plus there are already so many videos of people shooting Thompsons online. It would feel kind of redundant for me personally. But yeah, we'll start with the gun itself, and then we'll move on to the magazines. Alright, now starting at the front of the gun, and I'm going to go from front to back, we have a cuts compensator affixed to the front of the barrel. These were used on the Thompson until the M1 variant came out, and the purpose of these guys was to actually help ventilate the gas upon being fired to help reduce muzzle climb. As you can see, the little groove or holes there, those were to help ventilate the expanding gases that came out the front of the gun. And also affixed to here is the front iron sight. You can also see the Auto Ordnance logo on here with Thompson's signature on it. Alright, and here's a full look at the barrel. Now, compared to the proportions of the rest of the gun, this really is an astoundingly long barrel. especially when compared to the older models of the Thompson. This is nearly 18 inches from muzzle tip to chamber, and the reason for that is to fully convert this from a submachine gun to a carbine, because legally carbine barrels are 16 inches to 20 inches, and rifle barrels are 20 inches or above. So of course anything shorter than that would miss the mark. Now along here we do have the barrel fins. These are to help radiate heat during firing, and these fins taper just slightly until we get to the actual shaft itself. Going slightly lower, you can see the vertical foregrip. Now Thompsons are sold with vertical grips and horizontal grips. If you've ever seen the M1A1 Thompson, you'll know what I mean by horizontal grip. Personally, I've always been more partial to the vertical grips. I just thought they look more comfortable and, quite frankly, more cool. This is held in by this piece of steel down here, and that's connected to this bolt down here, which runs all the way up to there. Now, one change I'm not sure why they made, on the older model, the Thompsons, you would have this piece of steel down here that would actually connect to the barrel. They don't do that anymore, and I'm not sure why. Additionally, this foregrip, as well as the rest of the wood pieces on this gun, are made of walnut. The reason why walnut is commonly used is because it's a good hardwood. Its durability holds up during operation, and personally I think it looks really pretty, and it complements the black blued look of the metal pieces. Alright, and further down here we start to get to the main body of the gun. Of course, here's the classic frame that everyone knows and love. The top here we have the actuator. Other people will call that the bolt handle, although I think the official name is actuator. As you can see here, it's got kind of a cylindrical shape. Older models had more of a ball shape, and I think you can still buy actuators in that ball shape, although one benefit of the cylindrical shape is it makes it easier to grip onto, and it allows more room for the checkering on the sides, which definitely helps during operation. Down here we have these two grooves. These are for the drum magazines. You can kind of see that one is actually bigger than the other. That helps make sure that you don't insert the drum facing the wrong way. Alright, and down here you have your walnut pistol grip. You have your pivot plate. The purpose of this is to keep, for lack of a better term, spring tension on the selector switches. This bar right here is for the safety. At the top, this is where it's riveted to the body itself. On military Thompsons, there would be another bar that extends in the middle. That would be to keep tension on the selector switch for semi and full auto. Down here, of course, you have your trigger. This little nub right here, that's the extension for the magazine release lever. Alright, and here's a closer look at the markings on the side. Here it says Auto Ordnance Corporation, Greeley, Pennsylvania, USA. That's just the production company and their basis of operation. Over here we have US patents and a list of numbers. Not entirely sure what those mean. I'm guessing they're the amount of guns produced per patent. If somebody else knows, please let me know in the comment section. Alright, and at the top here we have the Lyman rear sight. Interesting thing about this guy, it was used, I think, up until the M1. It was either M1 or M1A1 variant, and then they switched to a more simple and, quite frankly, efficient rear sight. But down here you have a little cutout. This doesn't line up with the front sight as well as you would hope. Personally, I found it to be more effective just using the front sight, but this does flip up, and this metal piece, push this in, you can adjust based on how far away your target is. This sight here, this does line up slightly better with the front sight, but like I said, I just prefer to use the front sight entirely. And there are markings on here, but I couldn't find any answers as to how to actually read this. I heard that these increments are 50 yards apiece, although I couldn't tell you for sure. And then the entire rear side is just held in by this bracket. It's just screwed into the top of the gun right there. And then over here we have the Thompson signature once again. And then here is the back of the body. Nothing much to say about this. This little round piece that doesn't do anything for the exterior. It's just an extension of the plunger inside for the firing pin. All right, and here we have the walnut shoulder stock. Now, this model right here, this is a non-removable stock. You can still buy models with the removable stock, and I think the design is still the same as what they had all the way back in 1921. Down here you have a sling attachment, and then here on the back you have the butt plate. It just screws on and off. And although this model is not removable, if you have a screwdriver, you can just unscrew these two screws and take the stock off. It's pretty simple. All right, and here's a look at the left side of the Thompson. Everything aside from the main body here is identical. Here's your magazine release lever. Just push up to take the magazine in and out. Closer look, it has a checkering to help your fingers, and then you can see a little piece inside the trigger frame that is connected to this plunger in the magazine well. When you depress the lever, it goes back into the frame, allowing you to slide in, to slide the stick magazines in and out. As for the drum magazines, this tab right here, this is the lug that locks into the drum magazines, and it too will depress with the lever. Now here's the selector switch on here. This is for safe and fire. This is the only remaining selector switch on here because this is no longer a full auto model. But just turn it one way or the other. Show you what that looks from the other side. This is how the pivot plate does its job. The tension on the steel, it raises up as you turn and goes back in. That's how the spring tension is kept on the safety lever. Now, when the Thompson was designed, it was made for a right-handed user, and the idea was your hand would be here and you could operate the switch or both switches with your thumb, and operate the magazine release lever also with your thumb. Although in order to do that, your hand has to be relatively big, or at least your finger is relatively long. That's definitely not for everybody. Now, I personally am left-handed and actually found the controls to work slightly more comfortable, mainly because I can just reach my thumb over to adjust the switch, and then I can curl my pointer finger and press up on the lever like that while I slide the magazines in and out with my right hand. I personally found that to be a better fit than just using my right hand. This piece right here, that is the ejector plate. This is riveted to the body, and then this has an extension, a piece of metal that goes into the, or it sits right next to the to the bolt, and that extension will eject your cartridges as they're extracted from the chamber. Here's a look at the markings on the left side. Up here it says model of 1927 A1. For those of you who don't know, this is technically a modified version of the 1927 Thompson. That was a spate of the 1921 Thompsons that were special ordered for semi-automatic use only. So what they did was they changed out some internal parts and sold them. So that's technically a patent, and this weapon is a result of that patent. Here we have a production number. For those of you who are familiar with the history, the original batch of Thompsons was it was an order of or a contract of 15,000, and normally this number would say either number 1 all the way up to 15,000. Obviously, over the past 80 or so years, they produced quite a bit more, so this code is substantially higher. And then here in the back it says Thompson semi-automatic carbine, or carbine, whichever. This is obviously different from when it used to say Thompson submachine gun. And down here it says caliber 45 automatic cartridge for the 45 ACP that it fires. Alright, and now that the gun has been looked at, I'd like to shift focus to the magazines. So this particular gun came with a 20-round stick mag and a 50-round drum magazine. These are both, I guess, replicas of the standard issue magazines that came out with the Thompson. I don't think the 20-round magazine went through any changes. This drum magazine, this has had a few changes over the years, but for the most part it is virtually identical to the Colt Thompson drums. The main differences lie in the markings. Up here it says magazine type L, L being the Roman numeral for 50. And then it says for 1928 model, wind to 9 or 11 clicks. I personally found winding to 9 clicks works just fine. And then it says down here again, wind to 9 or 11 clicks. I'll put up a screenshot so you can compare the markings to the original Colt Thompson drums. Alright, now as far as ammo is concerned for these magazines, I personally like using the Blazer Ammunition 45 Auto 230 grain full metal jacket. I think this is the this was the common type of ammo used for Thompsons, and you can easily buy a box of 50. Open it up, and here they are. 45 caliber, full metal jacket, ball ammunition. Here it says 45 Auto Blazer, and these are center fire cartridges. All right, now this magazine is a double stack, double feed box or stick magazine. And to load it, start on the opposite side of this little tab right here. Push down and slide to the back. And that goes all the way up to 20. Now, the reason it's double feed is because when each round comes up, they stick to their side. That compared to this Beretta magazine, this is a double stack single feed. As the rounds go down here, they stay double stack, but each side feeds up into this singular chamber, so that every time it's time for a new round, they all go up into the same side, basically. I hope that makes sense. All right, and here the magazine is all loaded up. This got significantly heavier. Now, unloading this magazine can be kind of tricky. A lot of the times the rounds just don't want to come out of the magazine. I found to be the best way is just to press with your thumb and do your best to slide them out. Sometimes they may get stuck and you'll just have to resort to pushing from the back while prying them up. And yeah, basically just do that until the magazine is empty. Now, loading the stick magazines into the Thompson is kind of a unique style. I don't think any other gun follows this exact formula, but on the back you'll see a T-shaped dovetail and then a hole. This hole corresponds to the plunger that's inside the magazine well, and said magazine well is T-shaped, so this has a guide for the rail to follow. Now, if you're familiar with semi-automatic handguns, you'll know that the magazine, the follower, it'll push up on the slide lock to lock the slide back on upon the last expansion of the last round. And this follows the same principle. It's got a little tab back here, and that tab will line up with this this bolt hold open lever. This will slide up, and with that when that happens, not only will that cause the bolt to lock back upon the last trigger pull, but it also that control also helps insert the drum magazines and even the stick magazines, because while you can technically load a loaded stick magazine with the bolt forward, I found it just more consistent to do it with the bolt back. So what you do is insert it into the well, pull up on the magazine release lever and slide it up into position, and then when you're done, just slide it out like that. Now, the loading for the drum magazines is a bit more complicated. At the front, you have this this key. Some people call it a winder, although the manual will call it a key. And what you want to do is, well, you might be thinking you load rounds in from the top. That's actually not the case. In order to load drum magazines, you actually open them up to load them. So you have this tab here, you want to pull up and then slide the key off like that. And then once you do that, the top of the tin will open up to reveal the inside. And here's the top. As you can see, it has a metal spiral track inside of here. That is to help guide the rounds up into the chamber. And then here's the inside. I think on the original Colt Thompsons, this would be nickel plated inside, but apart from that, I don't think there is any design difference. You have this, I don't know what to call this piece. It's just a round pusher. And then a corresponding metal track lies inside here. And these fins that come out, these separate the magazine into different increments, I guess, or sections, and each hold 5 rounds apiece. So when loading drum magazines, it technically doesn't really matter what position this is in, but it's most useful to start from the 12 o'clock position with this fin facing up. That'll just allow the when you're winding it, it'll allow the clicks to measure up correctly. Essentially, what happens if it's too far this way, when you're winding it, a round has to be here before the spring has any tension on it. So you can basically offset yourself with clicks. I hope that makes sense. It's kind of something that can't really be explained. It's something that has to be experienced. But when your fins are set, take your bullets and you want to face them in or set them in primer down like that. And yeah, just set in all 50 like that. One thing I do want to mention is that you do not want a partially filled compartment, because this is built for 5 rounds apiece. If there's any dead space when the magazine rotates, I'm actually going to set them down here so you can see a better example. When these cams rotate, this will cause the bullets to fall over because there's no compression being held. And best case scenario, the rounds will fall down into the track and they just won't push up. Worst case scenario, your drum magazine is jammed and it's probably gonna be a nightmare to unload. All right, and here the drum magazine is all loaded up, and you have the pretty picture of all the copper staring back at you. Now, you're always gonna have some empty space in here, but you don't want to fill that for the same reasons I showed you why you don't want to have a partially filled section. So yeah, after that's done, you want to pop the tin back on to help guide your lid. This tab here slides into this groove, and These two tabs here will slide into this that groove right there. Just want to pop it back on. Yeah, this magazine is now considerably heavier, and that was two of the major complaints of the drum magazines, that they're too heavy or too bulky. Another common complaint was that there's a lot of empty space between the lids, so the bullets are going to rattle, which is that's not going to help you if you're trying to sneak up on somebody in combat. Now getting the key back on is kind of difficult. You'll see two cutouts right there. My camera will focus. Yeah, you'll see two cutouts there, and those slide in between this channel right here. So what you want to do is you want to line your key up, put the hole in here, and then you're going to want to press down to get the maximum amount of space and just slide it back on until it clicks. And to provide spring tension, you're going to wind this up clockwise. One thing I will disclaim, and I don't know if all drum magazines are like this, or probably not, but for mine, you'll hear like two little clicks and then one big click. One thing I had to learn the hard way is you don't want to count the little clicks, you only want to count the big clicks. I'll show you what I mean. So first get them into position, then little click, big click. The big clicks are the ones you want to count. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And there you go. You have enough spring tension to last all 50 rounds. If you want, you can go up to 11 if you want. Now, there isn't a simple way to unload this. The only real effective way is to press down on this and then slide each bullet out one by one. That's obviously going to take a while. Alright, now this is one malfunction I wanted to show you guys. And to my knowledge, this only happens when unloading. Thankfully, I don't think it happens while firing. But I don't know if it's because a bullet was too far set forward or manually unloading is just too slow for the spring tension, but a bullet will get in there crooked and it'll jam it. Thankfully, it's a relatively simple fix. You can just take any small rod-shaped piece. You can even use a screwdriver or a knife. Just want to get in there and pry it out of there. Yeah, you just want to pry it back into position like that, and then you can continue unloading. Now, something that isn't recommended is opening this back up to unload the cartridges while they're spring tension. Now you can take off the key just fine, and I would say in most scenarios it is safe to lift the lid off. I'm gonna show you here. Yeah, so while this is under tension, it's not gonna pop out at you, but there is a chance it could happen, and if it does happen, this is gonna finish spinning around and your cartridges are going to fly everywhere and you'll probably get hit in the face. Now, the good news about the drum magazines is that only the section that's next to the top, that is the only real one that has tension on it. So if you want, you could unload the cartridges all the way up to here, but once you get back to here, you're gonna have to put the lid back on and continue unloading one by one. So again, while you can technically do it that way, if you're all about firearm safety, I would not recommend doing that. I would just recommend manually unloading one by one. Also, another reason you may not want to do it that way is if you're not on the last section, there's still going to be spring tension when you unload those last 5, and when that does happen, it's gonna rapidly finish spinning around, and that's probably not good for the spring, and there's a chance that the key will pop up and hit your thumb. All right, now for inserting the drum magazine, it is slightly more complicated than the stick magazine. For one, the Thompson was originally designed as an open bolt submachine gun, and all firearms legally have to fire from a closed bolt position now. In order to do that, you're gonna have to pull back the actuator and lock it back. And to do that, put your pointer finger on the bolt hold open lever, and I just like to rest the stock on my hip. And you're gonna, and make sure it's on fire. The bolt's not gonna go all the way back if it's on safety. And you're gonna wanna pull it back, push the lever up, and just let the bolt rest on that. And if you're expecting it to be like the older model of the Thompsons, don't. There are 3 springs that hold the bolt back inside here, so it's not something you can just rack back with one hand. You're gonna need some extra force behind it. But once you do that, take your drum magazine. You'll see it has 2 grooves in here. Those correspond, or 2 lips right here. Those correspond to these grooves. Then you wanna line them up. Push it in a bit. Press up on your magazine release lever, and finish sliding it in until it's fully secure. And you can see down there that lug is locked into that magazine well. And yeah, that's how you put in a 50-round drum. Something else to mention is, unlike the stick magazine, the bolt will not lock back on the last round. Say hypothetically you just expended your last round, the bolt's going to go back forward. You do technically have to have the bolt locked back to take this out, and to do that, Auto Ordnance provides every gun with this tool right here. This is called the third hand. So what you want to do is turn the gun upside down, take your third hand with the hole facing towards the top. You want to slide it into the stick magazine well, depress the magazine release lever and slide it in so that the hole is resting on that plunger. Then you want to rack the actuator back, push up on that, and that'll lock your bolt back for you. And then take it out, just depress the magazine release lever and pull it out. And once you do that, then you're able to slide it out. Also, I will disclaim, when you first get the Thompson, it's going to be really, really stiff getting the drum magazine inside there, but that stiffness will go down in time and usage. It took me about, 3 days of inserting the drum in and out a lot before the stiffness finally went down. Now, one way I actually discovered how to do this without using the third hand, so this drum magazine, it does have a little bit of wiggle room. So what you can do is depress the release lever, pop it up just a bit so that the lug is resting on that well, and then while keeping your hand on the drum magazine, pull the actuator back and then slide it out. And yeah, that'll get your drum magazine out without having to use the third hand. Alright, so now that we've looked at the gun and the magazines themselves, I'm gonna field strip this so you guys can see what's on the inside. Now, in order to do this, you want the safety switch to be in the fire position. You want to, if the firing pin is forward, you want to pull the trigger to release it. Unfortunately, I don't think there is a safe way to decock this. You kind of just have to pull the trigger to let the firing pin forward. You'll also hear that click. That's the auto sear resetting, which I'll show you when I get this open. And then once those conditions are met, you want to go to the back of the gun, and you can kind of see down here in this well there's a button. That button is what holds the trigger frame in place, and the reason you want the safety forward is so the the auto sear and the safety don't get caught up on this button right here. All right, so what you want to do then is depress this button. You can do it with your hand. I find it easier to do it with a tool. You can either use like a screwdriver or a knife, basically anything that's small. You want to push this in and start sliding the frame back like that. And when you get to here, well, one thing you want to do is hold the trigger down so so that doesn't get caught up on the button. And then once you get to here, the frame is going to catch once again. It's going to catch on the internal trigger piece right there. What I found is best to do is hold the trigger down, take your tool and push the button up again, and then continue sliding back. And if you do it right, you will successfully separate the two halves of the body. All right, now going to the top half. If you're familiar with the older patents of the Thompson, this is going to look quite different, but the first thing you want to do is actually take out your recoil spring guides. You can just pry that open. Careful of the springs. I'm going to pull that out. Then you're going to take the firing pin plunger. You can pull that assembly out afterwards. Usually the spring will come back with the plunger. And then what you want to do, you want to hold on to the bolt. You want to tip it down, and that'll cause your I don't know what you call this, your actuator hammer or your firing pin hammer to come out. That's actually what holds your actuator in place. Then holding the actuator, you want to slide it back to the rear, and that will allow you to pull your actuator out. Then that'll in turn allow you to take your bolt out. And that is it as far as the field stripping goes. All right, I'm going to take a closer look at these pieces. Here is your bolt. This hole is where the actuator sets in, and inside there, that is where the firing pin hammer will set in. These two holes here are for the recoil springs, and this is your firing pin down here. Up here, you got your extractor, a very long extractor, and you can see the firing pin poking out. And here's the cutout for the ejector. And you have an additional cutout right here. That is actually for the auto sear, because if you take a look at the bottom half, when you pull the trigger, it's on a kind of a lever-based system where it'll drop the sear in the back, and then you have another tab of metal here, and when it goes up all the way, it'll come into contact with this cutout, and it'll push down, and that will cause the auto sear to reset. And probably can't see that. You can't really see in there, but there's an additional piece of metal that attaches, that makes contact with the sear, and that can be dropped back, and because you actually see it come up right there, and because there's nothing making contact with the sear, it just resets until you pull the trigger back and reset everything. You can also see the bolt hold open lever, and when that comes up, that makes contact with the bolt and holds it back. Here's a better look inside the top half. For the most part, it's just a hollowed out piece of steel. And then up here, you have your ejection port, and this little tab of metal here, that is your ejector. That's what the plate is attached to. And when the bolt comes back, it ejects the shells. Now, reassembly for this is just the inverse of disassembly. First, you want to take your bolt and there. You want to keep it held back while you take your actuator. You want to insert it into the hole and then slide it forward. Then tipping it a little bit, you want to take your hammer. It doesn't matter which way this goes in. You want to insert it into the big hole. Want to make sure it gets down in there. Then you take your firing pin, spring, and plunger. You want to insert it through the back. Make sure that too goes into the bigger hole, like so. And then you want to take your recoil springs and recoil spring guide. You want the cutout to face down, and you want to insert those 2 springs into those holes, and then try to keep it straight while you push it in, at least until you can get it to the edge. And then you want to push this in and drop that in, and everything is set in place. You want to take your top half and align it at the top of, or at the base of the rail. And you want to hold down your trigger and slide it forward until it stops. You want to come back a bit so that you can see the button down in there. You want to take your tool, then press up, and then slide back. And once you do that, you can just finish sliding back together, and the 2 halves will be rejoined. Alright, so that is pretty much everything there is to show with the 1927 A1 Thompson. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you learned some stuff, and I'll see you next time.